All right, Leggies. Well, I think we can get started here. I hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. I know I'm feeling pretty rough today, so this one may be a little bit shorter, but no promises. I know how we like to get sidetracked and we just get talking and it ends up being a little longer, but I wouldn't be surprised, I would be surprised if I make it a full hour here. But yeah, basically, I'm going to start by taking a look at some Bitcoin charts with the MDX algo indicators, as always. If anyone has any questions about the indicators or just questions in general, as always, I'll do my best to answer them. If you don't have a mic but are in the private Discord here, you should be able to type in the chat box in the indicators live voice group. So welcome, everybody. Yeah, like I said, here's my daily chart. I'm not going to lie, I don't really like how weak things are looking right now. I know this is going to be a little bit different because I know you guys know me as a perma bull. I have been an absolute moon boy for, well, a month or two at this point. I still am holding on to my bullish theories for now because, as I mentioned, the only way I'm going to change my opinion right now is if we drop this green box and flip it into resistance. Even if we do end up dropping this green box, I still think there's a chance that this purple downtrend line would hold, and that would make for just an absolute perfect fake out, a bit of a bear trap, if you will. And again, as always, I know I point this line out quite a bit, but that's my all-time high downward sloping trend line. It's quite accurate in my opinion. It has a lot of good touch points there. And I especially love that, you know, even after we got this close above this level, we respected this resistance as support for over a week, just tapping away at it. And you guys know my theory on that I think if we were actually bearish, I think we would have closed above this downtrend line and then got right back below it and then respected it as resistance once again, and then continuing below this green box and dump into the downside. The fact that we've actually managed to hold this level as new support, even though, yes, I know it seems like things are very weak. People get very quick to change their opinions and very quick to think that things are weak. But in my opinion, this was actually quite healthy price action. And I think a lot of us are used to crypto just being parabolic in both directions. So the fact that we're actually consolidating and retesting things, especially that it's on such a longer time frame, this is a daily chart, remember. So I think people are very quick to get impatient with things. But the fact that we did, especially this retest here, even when we started a little dump into my green box, we respected this absolutely perfectly. The one thing that I don't like right now is just basically that, you know, we never ended up getting any sort of a rally out of this. I was okay. I mean, I'm still okay with it. The fact that we're sitting on top of this box, and like I said, I outlined this box way back here in June. So, I mean, it's good to see that we're still holding above this level. And I still like that we have all these bullish divergences. Actually, the Oscillator 4, I've just kind of started using it a little more recently, and just seeing how these divergences play out. The fact that we have a hidden bullish divergence here after we closed above this downward sloping trend line and are just trading sideways, that's a really good sign in my opinion. But like I said, I would really like to start seeing some sort of a momentum shift off of this green box. That being said, we do still have this downward sloping trend line on the daily, but this is getting so coiled up. I mean, it's only, in my opinion anyways, I feel like a big move, and I know I've been saying this a lot, but there is definitely, in my opinion, is a big move looming, and I'm very curious to see which way it breaks. I mean, I've been very vocal on my YouTube channel, on these streams, on my Twitter, about how I really do believe that this was a bear market bottom back here. But you know what? I am open to being wrong, because as traders, that's something we have to acknowledge, that, you know, there is absolutely the possibility that we're wrong. I could be wrong about all of this, and we're actually just losing momentum and we're about to just dump to the downside. And, you know, I saw MDX posted this chart earlier today, and this is actually probably the most convincing bearish chart that I've seen so far. I don't know how perfect this descending triangle is. It's not as clean looking as our previous bear market here. And you guys know my opinion on this, that I think we already had our support for the bear market and that we had our final capitulation there. And although, yes, I can definitely see the sentiment that, we only did drop 70% so far, just like back here, another 10% drop would actually basically cut Bitcoin in half. So I do absolutely see the potential for another dump to the downside, because that would also just give us our full bear market 85% correction, which just happens to be
I'm just gonna watch this
a
live
thing
stream.
in a lot of other bear markets here,
Should
which
try
I
and
know I've
watch it back.
pointed
I'll
this
come in
out
a bit, yeah.
before.
'Cause I don't know why they're doing like a
Oh.
really late one, because like
Just
they're based in America.
getting a little bit of background noise from somebody. If you just want to just mute your mic if you are having a chat with someone or whatever. But yeah, sorry guys. Anyways, as I was saying, we do still have this downward sloping trend line, this yellow one that we have to break out of. And I mean, if we're going to do it, it's going to be very soon, in my opinion, because we are just so coiled up here. I mean, this does look like quite a nice descending triangle. So if we do get a break to the downside, I absolutely see the reasoning that we could be dumping down towards 14K, 12K, 10K, those kind of price targets. If I bring up the Algo 3, this is interesting. The moving average on the Algo 3, I just have mine on average. That's just how it came, and that's how I left it. It's interesting that even though we're showing weakness, we are just consolidating along that moving average, and I have removed a few signals. I just like to keep my charts fairly clean, so I can bring up a few more things. Like I don't have the signals on, for example. We have not yet got a long signal out of this. I really do believe that if we get any sort of momentum in the next few days off of this level, especially if we end up kind of breaking above this yellow line, I think we're going to see a long signal fairly soon in that case. That being said, that doesn't have to happen. If we end up dropping here, like I said, we could be heading a lot lower very quickly. The important thing about this, guys, is, I mean, I preach this quite a bit, that yes, being able to predict is great and all that sort of stuff, but being able to react is a lot more important than being able to predict, and just having a backup plan. And as it stands right now, for myself personally, I am 100% okay missing a big juicy momentum short right through this support. I think there's too much room for me, just looking at the way I look at charts and the things that I'm waiting for and have been predicting. It would really change up my strategy a lot if I tried to momentum short the hell out of this. And I just don't think I'm comfortable with that. I'm more comfortable with just spot buying on the way down if we do end up getting that dump. I am okay with changing my strategy where if we start getting bounces, I'm okay with starting to short if we have an obvious trend and we have structure and that sort of stuff on a shorter time frame. But as it stands right now, I'm just not willing to take that short position. I'm much more interested in trying to snipe along, just because, like I said, we have all these bullish divergence. I've been preaching this for a month now. I'm just not comfortable shorting into a strong support level like this with all these divergences playing out. So, yeah, that's basically my strategy right now. I mean, all the power to you. If you play the short side well, or you are just looking at it more clearly than I am, and you play a nice big juicy short, I'll be a little jealous, I'm not gonna lie, but it's just always good to have a plan and to stick to your plan. And right now mine is just looking at things bullishly, hoping for a break upwards, even just some sort of a relief rally, even if we do make it to 28K and absolutely dump and carry on our bear market from there. That's just I'm just not willing to look at things bearishly right now as we trade at support. That's just me personally, but obviously anything can happen in these markets. Hopping over to my Bitcoin cheat sheet here. As always, guys, I mean, I'm still bullish here. I have these RSI signals that are still here. And this is kind of something that's making me not really, look too much into this. The fact that we need another dump here. We have all these other, confluences in the charts that I pointed out, especially in my Bitcoin cheat sheet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out that video. It is on my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, do me a favor and go check out some of my videos. Subscribe to my channel. Same with my Twitter. Often I will just post analysis if I don't have time to make a video or that sort of thing. But where was it here? My Bitcoin cheat sheet right here. I go into this chart at great length. It's only about a 14-minute video, but I point out all the confluences that I'm looking at from a bullish perspective. And I really don't want to change my opinion right now just because things are looking weak, because the market loves to just kind of hang on long enough for everyone to give up hope. And this goes in both directions. But as it stands right now, I mean, you hear it all the time, even in our group chats, across social media. As soon as we're not going straight up and getting a serious bullish rally, people are very quick to flip bearish because they just give up hope really quick. And I think this would be a great recipe for that to play out. That a lot of people are starting to think it's weak. Even I, like you guys know, I'm extremely bullish. I have been for such a long time. A total moon boy, and I'm starting to question this just because we're not getting any sort of a momentum switch here. So I think a lot of people are going to give up just when the time is right to get some sort of a pump to the upside. And then, yeah, as Kieran just said, I mean, golden rules, short resistance, buy support. That's exactly why I'm not willing to short right now. This is just such a big daily range, and it is a big daily range. I mean, there's plenty of move to the downside there with a little leverage. I mean, that's a very nice, profitable trade if it is to play out. But this is just such a big level of potential support. And like I said, we just have bullish divergences across so many different indicators. Just as we've traded sideways for many months now, I'm just not willing to bet against that. I'm still going to look at this whole range as an accumulation range rather than a distribution range. But again, if I'm wrong, I mean, I will totally accept that. It's just important to make sure you have a backup plan, because a lot of people who are bearish and expecting a big dump down to 10K, there's a lot of people not willing to pull the trigger on any spot buying at all at these levels. They are so confident that it's going down that they're not willing to buy anything. And I just want to know what the backup plan is there. If we end up blasting straight off up to 28K, I mean, are they going to end up FOMOing in right at resistance? Are they going to wait until we end up hitting? You guys know I was talking about my potential price target was actually closer to 50K. If we do get a proper rally here, and I know I've pointed this out before, but I would be interested in seeing rejection kind of closer to the 618. And this is pulled top to bottom with this Fibonacci, you guys. So I'm looking for resistance levels. This is just how I do it. There's 100 different ways to pull Fibonacci's. This is just the way I like to look for resistance. I pull top to bottom, just like if I'm looking for support right now, I'd be going from our local bottom here to our local high. Obviously on a more macro scale, I would be going back a lot further if I'm looking for support, and that's where I actually go from our bear market bottom. I know a lot of people go from our COVID bottom. It's whatever works for you. A lot of this is preference. I like how my 886 actually lines up with this structure right here, as well as just back here. I mean, it looks like a pretty strong level of confluence there, and the fact that my 786 fib is actually bang on perfect with this resist support horizontal box from our previous market cycle all-time high. So just a lot of things lining up there. So that's just how I personally pull my fib levels. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at right now is I want to see this yellow line break. And the kicker about this, you guys, is since we haven't broken this downtrend line, and it is a pretty well-defined one. I mean, we start here, second touch point, third touch point. This one's very close, not quite, but now we got a fourth, a fifth touch point. That's a pretty significant trend line, actually, to be honest. So I think even if we break above it, I think it'll get some sort of a retest, and I think that's going to throw a curveball at a lot of people, because once again, we're going to get some kind of a breakout and not get an actual rally if that is to play out. And we might even come back down and kind of test lower into this green box, and that would really screw with people's emotions. People would be so bearish so fast if that happened. If that does happen, I think this would be an excellent location to snipe some kind of a long from here. I think we could see a very aggressive springboard from that level, if that is to play out. Obviously, a lot of what ifs between now and then. But yeah, I'm very interested to watch this yellow line. I would love to see us break above, get some sort of a retest, even more closer to the top of my green box here, and get a springboard effect from there. I would absolutely love to see that. But unfortunately, the market doesn't give a shit what my opinion is and what I want, so we're going to have to just see what happens. The DXY, nothing has really changed on my chart here because this is a monthly. It's very slow moving. It looks the exact same as it did in my last couple streams. But again, you guys, this is 20 years of data. This Fibonacci pulled top to bottom here, just looking for resistance levels. That is basically bang on my 886 Fibonacci level, which you guys know in the chat, I've been talking about how well that fib gets respected so often. And on top of that, it's just lining up with this 10-year long channel that's sloping to the upside. So there's a lot of confluence here as well. Like I said, 10-year channel here, 20-year Fibonacci pull here. That's a very serious pattern in my opinion. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Yes, I know the DXY does have momentum on its side. If it breaks above this box and flips it into support, I mean, look the hell out, crypto. Bitcoin is most likely going to dump extremely hard if that happens. But if the DXY does end up finding resistance here, and I do currently see reason why it would, then I think Bitcoin would be in a very nice position. The fact that the DXY RSI is so overextended right now, what I would like to see is see some sort of a double top come into play, with the RSI kind of come back into regular territory, retest this oversold line, but not quite get, overbought rather, and not quite get back into it. I think if we see that kind of a formation, I think the DXY is going to go for a serious tumble, and I think Bitcoin is going to absolutely explode if that happens. But I mean, we're going to have to see what happens there.
You wake up early, why don't you call your doctor and tell them that you've been having this cough is not going?
Do you guys have any opinions about this? What are you guys thinking? Do you have any questions about the indicators themselves? I know I don't always go over the indicators and the settings and that kind of thing, just because quite often we have the same people in these streams, and I really don't want to bore you with that, but I can absolutely answer any questions you guys have about it. I'm just going to go back in the chat here and see if I missed anything. Oh yeah, and again, Raji, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Just make sure your mic's turned off if you have a background conversation or whatever, but that's all good. That line in the top part is the EMA. On this Bitcoin chart, that's for Thumbcase, by the way. That's interesting. Just had a comment, having a little trouble getting the blue dots to show up. These are the divergences, the Stoch RSI divergences, and I literally noticed that today, so you're not alone. On this chart, it seems to show up. But I have, what is it? I know yesterday I had my regular chart here. I had a bunch of them showing up. I know I had a blue dot up here. Definitely had a blue dot up here. I had a blue dot here. I know there was a blue dot down here, a blue dot up here. And they're not showing up now, so I don't know if there is currently a bug or a glitch. I will mention it to MDX because I'm also having that. I don't know if it's just this chart or what, but for whatever reason, my Bitstamp chart is still showing them. So yeah, I don't think you're alone there. The line that goes through the candles, that would be like this squiggly line here. That is the moving average of the indicator. Quite often, I actually turn that off. That would be the trend. It should turn off. Yeah, so that gets rid of it, or it throws it back on. Can be used as a little bit of confluence there. I I like to keep my charts fairly clean, and quite often I don't even have that up. But you are more than welcome to play with that as well. I know a lot of people use different types of moving averages. You can use the exponential moving average, the simple moving averages, if you like volume, all that sort of stuff. I just use average because that's how this came when I activated it. And I just don't, I mean, me personally, I just don't look at that trend line all too closely because I feel like I can picture it in my head just as easily, whether or not it's there. But yeah, absolutely, it can be used to help with entries and stop losses and that kind of thing. Just make sure you do your own back testing, and always remember, guys, that these are just indicators. I really love these indicators. They quickly became my very favorite indicators. The oscillator 4, oscillator 5, the Algo 3, and the RSI is really all I use. I've always used the RSI, and I still like to use it just for spotting divergences and stuff, but I'm really loving the oscillator 5 and 4 for spotting divergences. They're seeing some that I don't see. I really just love these indicators. Most importantly, I love the colors. That it just looks beautiful. But yeah, so this would be, to answer your question, I guess, yes, this is a moving average, I guess, of the indicator. Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of us are having trouble with the blue dots coming up on this indicator. I don't know if it's a trading view issue, or it's just whatever chart we're on having an issue, or it's the indicator itself. Like I said, I'll mention it to the team just to see if they've been having any issues with it. But yeah, it is weird. I find that on my Bitstamp chart, they are still showing up. So that being said, let's just use this chart and zoom in a little bit. I am going to, we did just get a short signal, and it's kind of close to resistance there. So, I mean, that's definitely something worth considering. I am going to turn off a few things here just so I can look at just the blue dots that we're talking about. They've actually been very strong signals, in my opinion. I've actually been liking the Stotch RSI divergence more than the buy or the long and short signals personally. I mean, you can see that quite often these have called very nice moves. This is a 4 hour, so these are fairly decent moves. I mean, anytime, especially when we're trading sideways and we kind of get one, you can see that quite often it will be an early warning sign of which way the market is heading. It's too bad that we're already pulling back from this move. I mean, it was a fairly nice move, actually. Let's just see how many we did get. Well, almost 3%. I guess it looks like a good move because the market has been so stagnant lately and barely moving. I mean, we're all very sick of the sideways chop. I mean, you want to talk about max pain? In my opinion, trading sideways is max pain. I mean, you can make money if the market's trading up. You can make money if it's trading down. But when it's trading sideways, it's a lot more difficult to play. And the moves just get so much smaller that your risk reward isn't always there. So a little harder to trade. But yeah, I do think volatility is going to kick back into this market real soon. Like I said, if you look at the daily chart, I mean, we're just so coiled up here. It's only a matter of time until we either break out from this yellow trend line or we end up crashing below my green box here. I just think that a very large move is in Bitcoin's very near future here. Let me know what you guys think about that. What's your opinions? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Disagree? Any questions about what I'm looking at? Voice is starting to have a bit of a hard time, so we'll see how much longer I can go here with you guys. But as long as we're going here, I mean, I just love doing these streams, and I love talking to you guys about crypto. Like I always say, I don't get enough time talking about crypto with people. Not enough of my friends like talking about it. So I just love being able to discuss things with a group. So I would like to stay on for the full hour here if I can. Thumbcase thinks that I think it's due for a bounce up. Yeah, I mean, me too. I know I've mentioned this in the past too, that if we do end up getting a pretty quick aggressive sell-off, I really do believe that there's going to be a bear trap. and I think that it would quickly get bought back up. I really need, for me to flip bearish, I need at least a 4-hour candle body close below our local lows here at about, what is that, 17.6K, somewhere in there. I need a 4-hour close below this green box for me to take any sort of bearish movement seriously. I think there's just a recipe with all those bullish divergences, this downward sloping trend line being just below that support box. I think there's quite a recipe building for a quick little fake out that would really screw a lot of traders over. I mean, there's going to be so many people with stop limit orders, so setting momentum shorts below this green box, and people really don't like to wait. So I think, basically we get below this wick at all, and there is going to be some inexperienced traders really hammering into the short positions, and I think it's just a recipe for them to get wrecked and us to have some sort of a fake out and then actually start trading to the upside with a little bit of momentum. Because if we do get below this green box, even if it's not a close, just a wick or whatever, you can almost guarantee that volume is going to go nuts. The liquidity in the market, like, there's going to be a lot of stop losses being hit. There's going to be people with very deep pockets if they're looking to fill their pockets with Bitcoin. I mean, they are going to scoop up that liquidity when they can actually, put in those large orders and not start moving the market, so they can actually fill their bags down here, because there would be so much selling volume from people panicking there. So I think that's just a big recipe for some sort of a bear trap, as I was talking about.
I just had a comment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a thing, like, there's two kinds of pain in this market. The first type is when the market goes down, and that's obviously bad for people who are buying. The second type of pain is just the time, just constant sideways. I actually love sideways markets, because I honestly love it, but it's when it's sideways and it's just such a tight compression. It's so irritating. And
Yeah.
It's designed to lure you into making mistakes. And sometimes you just have to sit on your hands and wait and just let the market screw itself up and for the right opportunities. And it's these constant, like, high probability setups that over the long run. Another thing is that if you actually go back in time to the 2017, 2018, 17.8K is actually not a particularly strong resistance support. It's actually only a support in the 4-hour chart. It's 19.8K and is a lot more strong. And also, like, if we break down below below this current region to 17.8K, if you think about it, a lot of people are thinking the same thing. Oh, just let me put a conditional order and let me make a buy. And it's simple as that. But the thing is, the market just doesn't give home runs that easily. Like, sometimes it's just better to, I know you might miss the meat of the move, but sometimes it's just better to wait and just really react, I think, rather than having limit orders sometimes in such a risky time, really.
Absolutely, especially with leverage trading. I mean, spot buying, obviously, it's a lot easier. You can you can set limit buys all the way down. If you're just looking to dollar cost average in, I mean, that's obviously, like, if that's a part of your strategy, that's absolutely great. I mean, that's what I'm going to do if we start dropping these levels. But yeah, as you said, seeing the reaction is what's more important, and especially with leverage trading, because, I mean, you never know if a level's just going to hold first try or anything like that, right? I mean, I see someone asking about what's your best scalp trade strategy using the indicators. That would be a good example of that, I guess, would be when you start seeing, like, let's say, I, for example, love looking at the 786 and 886 Fibonacci's. So like, a trading strategy for me personally would be looking, let's just say we'll take a pull from our our local low here to the swing high there. And I mean, just look how often we have actually kind of tested this 886 and not really broke it. I mean, we did break them a little bit. If you're using high leverage, you probably would have been stopped out, because this is a daily chart. But that's the kind of thing I would be looking at on a shorter time frame. Is I love to see, kind of mixing Fibonacci's with my own trend lines, and as well looking at those indicators for just confirmation. And that's actually one of the reasons why I have been so bullish, is just because, as I mentioned, we're kind of tapping at the 886. We're really flirting with the 786. I don't like that we're actually struggling to keep that 786. I don't want to keep tapping away at this 886, because I think then just the weaker it gets and we're going lower. But yeah, one of my favorite trading strategies would just be looking for a reaction at my favorite Fibonacci levels, and there's a reason why I have them different colors. I mean, yes, the 618 is quite often respected in healthy markets, but lately I've really noticed on all time frames the 786 and 886 fibs have been respected so well. So I really like to see us kind of getting towards those buy zones that I like to watch for, and then seeing bullish divergences come into play. So I have my RSI here has a massive bullish divergence. If we all of a sudden lose this uptrend on the RSI, I would also be tempted to flip a little more cautious, just because we'd be losing that divergence line. But the oscillator 5, I mean, we have divergences kind of all over the place while we've been trading along my green box here. Oscillator 4, we have a regular bullish divergence as we're trading sideways here. We have a hidden bullish divergence. That's the R and the H. That's what they stand for. So I like to see those bullish divergences coming into play as we're kind of trading along an area that already has my interest. That's kind of the main reason why I'm so bullish right now, is just seeing those divergences from the indicators lining up with what I already have mapped out as my own technical analysis, right? Because as I said, these are just indicators. I like to map out my own technical analysis before I do anything, and usually starting on a larger time frame, actually about once a week, usually after the weekly close. I like to kind of start out on a weekly chart and draw some lines that I see, and then zoom into the daily, and then the 4 hour, and then the hourly, and I just kind of zoom in like that. And then I like to really zoom in if I'm going to enter a leverage position, especially if I'm using high leverage. That's kind of where I will look at these strong trend lines and then zoom right in. And I know I had actually, you know what, here's a good example of where I used the indicator and it worked out quite well. And I remember it was this exact moment here. That looks like a very small wick down there, but let's just zoom right into the 5 minute. And I believe, I think Kieran knows where I'm going with this, because I think we discussed it last time. But this is where we got that retest of that purple trend line. And if you go on the 5 minute here, we never even got a 5 minute close below that. So that's how accurate that trend line was. Yes, we got this little wick below. And that's where, you know, if you did have a high leverage long position there, I mean, obviously if you're using really high leverage, that might have been a bad play, because that might be too loose. If you're using, you know, a 100x or a 50x trade, you're going to take a big loss if that stops you out. But that's where I waited for the confirmation of how it respected that area. So I never just set a long trade there. I actually waited, and as we were not closing any candle bodies below that level, I flipped on the indicators, and I think it was specifically the oscillator 5. Yeah, so we got this bullish divergence that got pointed out when we were trading about here. Kind of got this little double bottom right along that purple trend line. And like I said, it was just waiting for the reaction along that trend line. So yes, it's a daily trend line, but then I zoomed into the 5 minutes. So yes, the 5 minutes, a total degen kind of a time frame to be trading on. But I am looking at a much larger time frame when I'm, you know, planning my strategy and looking to enter a position. So I was already very keen on entering along at this position, and the fact that the oscillator 5 gave me this bullish divergence confirmation there, I did take along there. I think it was like 18,352 if I remember correctly. It was right about here that I ended up taking along. So you know what? Yeah, I never caught the exact bottom, but I caught a very healthy move to the upside. And I just like taking profits along the way. So I think it was when we dropped back down below like 19.3K or something, we started changing the structure of the chart a little bit, because as we were going up, we just started creating higher lows. And then eventually we ended up kind of breaking below this low here. And I was willing to accept that, it might be time for some sort of a cool down period. And that is exactly what happened. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. So that's kind of where I closed that position there. Hopefully that kind of answers your question about using the indicators as far as a strategy goes. Like I said, I just like to map out my own analysis and just use them as confluence on a shorter time frame kind of a thing. Hopefully that answered your question. Where do you see the orders piling up to create a real volume move in either direction? Honestly, I keep my trading very simple, and I don't even watch the volume as much as I should. I know a lot of people say it's very important to watch volume, and I'm not going to disagree. I just personally don't watch it. Maybe that's a silly mistake on my end, but I've just never really made a habit of looking at the order books or anything like that, because the way I see it, market makers can just as easily remove an order just as fast as they put it in, especially with bots, the way bots are scalping trades and that kind of thing. I mean, they can be adding and removing a ton of liquidity or a ton of volume orders or whatever. But I guess the important thing to take away from that is just this is where you would have got a lot of volume. For example, just because a trend line was broken, a lot of people probably started getting stopped out of positions, but then someone with deep pockets most likely had a buy that ended up pushing the market up a little bit, and then we were able to get this little reversal here. I like the momentum on oscillator 4 and strength in the middle of oscillator 5. What time frame is that on? Are you thinking on the daily? Oh boy, what have I done here? Okay, there we go. Actually, another thing I want to point out that I never noticed until now, speaking of the oscillator 5 in the middle here, this is actually a hidden bullish divergence as well. That little blue line sloping to the downside, that is a hidden bullish divergence. So that's just another one lining up while we're trading sideways. I mean, that wasn't confirmed until we were kind of in this area here, so just a couple days ago. So that's just another bullish divergence that I never even noticed until now. And like I said, the oscillator 4 has this hidden bullish divergence. Let's just make this a little bigger here. Yeah, it looks like it has a little bit of momentum there. I like that we're kind of trading above this trend line here. I don't know too much about this indicator. I haven't used it too much. I just mostly use these indicators for divergences. It's just one of my favorite ways to trade. So yeah, you can see that obviously red R is regular bearish divergence, red H, hidden bearish divergence, and then regular bullish, hidden bullish. A vector, you know what? I still might be wrong about vectors, but I didn't know what they were until I saw Mike starting to post about them in the group. I believe, and I could be very wrong on this, so maybe don't take my word for it. Let's just try and find one. Here's a good example. So we have this low here. We have our support low, and we ended up, actually, we did get a close below that. I believe what a vector is let's say, maybe zooming out, I can see it. Yeah, so on the 15 minute, I believe this is what it would be. So we have our low here, where we found support, and then later we end up breaking that support, but we don't actually get a close below that level. So it's a bit of a failed, what's it called? A failed swing pattern, I think is what it was called. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And actually, if anyone knows vectors better, like I said, I haven't heard about them till I started seeing Mike point them out. So if I'm wrong about this, by all means, let me know. But I think it's kind of, yeah, you find your support, let's say we would have came back down here, got some sort of a wick below, but ended up kind of closing a doji candle here, for example. It's just, in that case, it's looking like there's not actually that much strength and momentum to keep the price below that. It was just kind of a fake out to just screw over some retail traders. Yeah, SFP swing fail pattern, I believe. Hopefully that cleared it up, and I hope I'm correct about that. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I haven't used vector trades too often, but I mean, it seems like a very nice way to trade these markets and to keep emotions out of it, because you have your stop loss just below them or whatever. Point of control, I keep my trading very, very simple, so I'm not positive on that either. I believe that's kind of where volume comes into the market, and like that's just where you're going to see your big sell walls, your big buy walls, where the market really isn't able to move past those levels. Again, someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. I see Kieran typing. He probably knows better than I do. Yeah, so it's basically on volume profile. So I think that's kind of what I was talking about, where I want to zoom in on the DXY here, see what it's doing on a shorter time frame. There is quite a large bearish divergence on the daily, but I mean, take it for what it is. Again, this is the DXY. Take it for what it is. There has been many daily bearish divergences, and obviously it just continued going parabolic. So I mean, the trend is your friend until the end, and I mean, the DXY is obviously in a very strong uptrend. Let's just map out a few random. This is just going to be totally freestyling a few random lines here. There's an upward sloping trend line. There's actually a newer one right here. It even actually has its 3 touch points already. So what I would love to see on the daily from the DXY here is I would love to see us kind of get below this trend line and end up forming some sort of a double, triple top, whatever, just kind of finding resistance at the same level and seeing a fairly aggressive downturn in the RSI, just getting a strong bearish divergence. Because like I said, there's so much confluence for resistance here on the DXY. Again, look how close that was to my 10-year channel resistance line, and the 886 was very close to that level. So yeah, I do see reason for the DXY to pull back, but again, the trend's your friend till the end, so it could absolutely just carry on. It could just straight up moonshot, and that would be rough for us crypto traders. But yeah, Kieran, the VPVR, I know I have seen a few people use that. Again, it's an indicator that I personally don't use. I'm pretty sure I've seen MDX use it. I've seen a few of you guys use it in the channel. I know I've seen Four Flies use it. He's another one that I watch quite a bit. Yeah, the VPVR, absolutely. That's a good indicator that shows you kind of the point of control from a volume standpoint. Thumbcase, what do you do when you take profit and you only have a little bit left in and you're still up, but you want to take other trades? I usually try not to take those other trades because I don't like to be in too many trades and just kind of losing track of things. It just becomes harder to manage if I have too many things open. At that point, quite often I do end up adding to positions if they are, winning, and I see, let's say I'm in a nice long and I see a beautiful retrace and the 786, for example, and my Fibonacci is being respected with a double bottom or something. Absolutely, sometimes I will add to my positions. But be careful with that, because more often than not, I end up regretting it. I find that whenever I add to positions, quite often it's because you think you're the smartest person in the world because you have a winning trade, and that ignorance ends up costing you. The market will humble you quite a bit. If you want to do more trades, I think there is ways to set it up that you can have multiple. I know my buddy on Binance, he will quite often have several shorts and several longs open. I don't know if that's a futures thing or a margin thing. I'm not sure. I've never done it with Bybit. One way you could do it, for example, on Bybit, let's say I was in a long on my perpetuals, inverse perpetuals, and I wanted to be in a different trade. I could absolutely then, let's say, and I wanted to take another trade on Bitcoin, I could do it from the Tether trading pair instead. That would open you up to another trading pair that would basically be the same thing, but it wouldn't affect your current position. Other than that, obviously, getting into altcoins and other stable coin pairs and that kind of thing. You can look into it. I think there is ways to set up some exchanges that you can be in multiple positions of the same trading pair, but that's something that I don't do because I just find that that's a recipe for disaster to me. Start over trading way too much, and that can be very dangerous when you're using high leverage. So how do I add more to my trade? You just the same way you entered your trade. If I'm already in a long, I can add to my trade by just setting a limit buy or whatever. It'll just add to your position. It will change your average entry. And then, yeah, you can just kind of add to a position that way. But again, usually when I end up adding to a position, I end up regretting it. So just be careful if you're doing that kind of thing. Yeah, actually, that's something I forgot about is sub accounts on Bybit. Yeah, you can absolutely open sub accounts, and that way, like, your accounts are kind of linked or whatever. But yeah, they will act separate from each other. Yeah. How do you confirm a breakout? I mean, you can still only play your odds, right? Like, there's nothing saying that there is for sure a confirmed breakout. But for example, let's say, we break out from this downtrend line, we end up coming back down, and we start closing some green candles here, and just kind of respecting this downward sloping trend line as support, kind of like what happened back here. And then I would be looking for some kind of bullish divergence again or whatever, but obviously this chart already has so many bullish divergences. Basically, I would just be looking for getting closes above this yellow line and then getting some green closes kind of back along old resistance, looking to flip it into support. Again, nothing's guaranteed. That's just all you can do is play the hand you're dealt. It's just a probabilities game. There's no trading strategy that's absolutely 100% flawless. So, yeah, just be careful. But, yeah, I would consider, if I'm going to see a fake out here, generally they happen pretty quick. So let's say we get a daily close above this yellow line. But then, let's say the next day or two, you end up starting to close candle bodies back below that line. I'd be more likely to consider it a fake out. But if we end up getting above it and then slowly trading down along this trend line, kind of as I was mentioning earlier that, this was actually quite healthy price action in my opinion, because we were slowly trading down, just respecting that line. That's where I'm more likely to take it serious, is we start to close candle bodies just kind of along a line that's flipping from resist to support in this case, and starting to close some green candles. That's where I'd be really looking for, considering it confirmed, I suppose. Not to say it's going to play out, but... Holy, I've almost made it an hour, you guys. You guys are good. Keeping me occupied and not thinking about feeling like ass here. Yeah, you bet. No problem. See a couple people type in here. I'm probably gonna think about wrapping this up soon because I have a headache. I feel like shit. I'm stuffed up. A hot toddy. Oh, that's a good idea. What is that? That's the honey. Is it honey, whiskey, and lemon or something like that? Yeah, I could really go for one of those right now. Probably gonna have a Toke instead. The exact opposite of what my lungs need. What are some things you look for as points to get into trades? As I mentioned, I like to look for Fibonacci lines. I like to map out these support boxes or resist boxes where I kind of outline the entire wick of, like, let's say this is the bottom of our range ever since we bottomed out back here. I like to map out an entire box rather than just one specific line, just because I think there's a little bit of wiggle room, especially on a big daily chart like this. So I really like to see my boxes end up getting divergences that align with them. So in this case, it's support. I want to see some bullish divergences. If I had, let's say, oh, wrong button there. Let's say our resistance for this range up here as a bit of this yellow box here. If we end up trading back up to this box, for example, and we start to see some heavy bearish divergences forming on, let's say, the RSI or these indicators, whatever. I won't know how it looks until it kind of forms. But that's one of those opportunities where, you know, we're getting into my resistance box. Or even if we would get above it and get one, as well as we went over earlier, those vector scenarios. So we just kind of get just barely above my box, but we close back in it, getting some sort of a rejection with bearish divergence. That would be a big signal to me that, hey, maybe I should take a short at this range. Fibonacci's. I love double bottoms, triple bottoms with divergences. I know I've pointed it out on these streams before that, like, let's say this purple trend line along with this green support box, this pattern right here would be one of my favorite to long. I mean, right now I'm a little... Like I said, I'm a little cautious right now because we never got the momentum from here that I was really hoping for and anticipating. But as it stood, let's just say this was non-existent at this point. This is totally the kind of long position that I would like to take on a smaller time frame. If this was like a 5-minute or a 15-minute chart, for example, I would love to be entering a long position, especially kind of laddering in throughout the box. Again, it would be a much smaller time frame. The only reason I'm not doing that now is because this is such a massive box, because it's such a large time frame. But this would be one of my favorite patterns to long, just because, you know, we did break this downward sloping trend line that has more than 3 touch points. I only consider a line valid if it has 3 basically perfect touch points. If it only had these 2, let's just say we would have kind of pumped like this, I would have actually been quite bearish in that situation, just because we only had our 2 touch points. I always like to have at least a 3rd touch point. After we got this rejection here, I know a lot of people flipped bearish and were saying that, you know, this is where the bear market's going to continue. We're going down to 14K. I actually became much more bullish when we got this rejection. It was a harsh move to the downside, don't get me wrong, but it just confirmed my trend line, and then I was just looking for a break above it, and yeah, that's what we got. That's why I've been so bullish on this channel. But not only that downward sloping trend line, I guess I should finish my thought here. It's that we broke a strong downward sloping trend line, as well as holding a support box. And like I said, I've had this mapped out ever since back here, and I know that because my birthday was June 22nd, and I was thinking that would be really cool if Bitcoin bottomed for my birthday. And you know what? At this point, it still has technically. I'm going to ride this one out. It's still my birthday present. But the fact that we have this support box mapped out from such a long time ago, and with all those bullish divergences that I've been talking about, And on top of that, closing above and respecting that old resistance downward sloping trend line, that's where I am very bullish on the trend, or was very bullish on the trend. That's just one of my favorite trade setups to make. If this was a shorter time frame, I absolutely would have been longing the hell out of this whole support box. You got to bounce off the 786 and you think it's going up and you're trying to get in. Is too many touches bad? It kind of depends. The way I look at it, if we're touching, like, you do hear that, you know, the more we tap away at support, the weaker it gets. And yes, that is true. The only reason I'm not flipping bearish with how many times we've tested this daily trend line, or this box rather, is just because we still have all these bullish divergences. If we just kind of keep tapping away at this box, but we notice that the RSI, for example, starts going something like this, I mean, in that case, I'm going to say that, yes, we're losing a lot of strength. But the fact that we have all these bullish divergences along this flat kind of support level, to me, it looks like strength is building. Even though the price isn't showing that, it isn't reflecting that, the indicators are stating that. Well, I mean, the RSI, for example, the name of it is the relative strength index. So the fact that we do see strength moving to the upside while we're just trading sideways at support, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing right now. I'm just kind of looking at it as an accumulation phase until that changes. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad that made sense. Again, it's one of those things, there's never going to be a perfect method. You're always going to lose trades no matter how well defined your trading strategies are. But yeah, it's just, we're just kind of playing the hand we're dealt. You're playing your probabilities. It's a game of math and sticking to a plan. And I know Kieran harps on this quite a bit, is the very important thing is bankroll management. Like, I know he mentions over and over that he only risks 1% on a trade. I usually do kind of 3 to 5. But yes, the longer you are able to survive the market, if nothing else, as long as you have a proven strategy, you have good risk-reward ratio, you're just able to lose a lot of trades for your strategy to kind of catch up, as long as it's got a good win rate or a good risk-reward ratio, so you're winning a lot more than you're losing. You don't even have to win 50% of your trades. If you have much bigger wins than your losses, I mean, it's a fine balancing act. You don't want to cut your losses too short. I should be careful how I word this. I know a lot of people who set their stop losses way too close, and then they feel like, well, you know, I could lose 10 trades and it really doesn't matter because if I'm right, then I'm going to make a lot. But the thing is, you really got to consider, especially with high leverage, is the fees. The fees do add up. If you keep losing, even if you're only losing 1% per trade, add another percent or more for the fees involved with the, you know, taking that leverage. It can really add up quickly, especially if you're trying to snipe the bottom, for example, and you just keep entering a trade. You enter 10 trades a day, just really trying to nail that bottom. It can get real risky when you start doing that. How do you decide when to sit out? Basically, if I don't know, if I feel like I don't have a clue and it's kind of a coin toss, that's a good time to sit out. Anytime you're not comfortable with the trade and you're hoping it's going to go well, it's probably not a trade you want to take. You want to be able to set your trade, feel confident about it, and not have to babysit what's happening. Be able to go enjoy life and not stare at the computer screen. I do stare at the computer screen just because I really like looking at these beautiful colors and looking at charts and stuff. But when I enter a trade, I don't want to have to babysit it. Yeah, like Kieran said, he only trades if he's 60% sure. Yeah, absolutely. You want to feel like you do have an edge on the market. You don't want to just enter a trade because you have FOMO, you're scared of missing out on profits. You want to actually feel like you are correct about what's about to happen. Yeah, you don't have to be in a trade every day. We actually just had a daily close, hey? Is that my, where'd that... Oh, never mind. Yeah, I mean, that daily close wasn't great, but we're still above my green box. You guys know my opinion on that. I cannot flip bearish until we lose that green box as support and start actually like getting 4-hour closes below it. So for now, I'm going to remain bullish for now. Let's check a weekly chart here. That weekly close a few days ago, also not that great, but you know, we are still in my green box, as I said. So we do have bullish divergences. We're kind of losing. Well, actually, no, never mind. I have to redraw that on the weekly here. We're kind of losing that upward sloping momentum on the weekly RSI, but it is still technically, you know, we went from oversold conditions on the weekly RSI, which generally in the past has actually marked market bottom. Doesn't have to happen again, but obviously it sure could. It's worth considering. So the fact that we went into oversold, but now we're actually holding back, and I mean, we're on the lower end of things, but we are back into the healthy range of the RSI, I'm going to call it. Bringing up the Algo 3, we got that Stoch RSI divergence. I should bring up... Actually, I should just be... Oh yeah, this is my Bitstamp chart. I'll go into my settings here. Just going to add signals, take profits. What else was it? Oh yes. So I know I've pointed this out in streams and my videos before, but those are some nice looking bullish divergences as well. On the Algo 3, we have this bullish divergence here, as well as the Stoch RSI divergence. The Oscillator 5 has this bullish divergence. The Oscillator 4 has a regular bullish divergence here. So there's a lot of divergences lining up there, as well as, and again, this is the weekly chart here, but it had this beautiful short call that would have came into play around somewhere in here. So yes, we absolutely got a downtrend from there. But there was a take profit right at the bottom, basically. I mean, right when the market bottomed, we did, I mean, for now, we did get that take profit signal and then starting to get some bullish divergences. And I know I've pointed this out before, but we haven't got this bullish divergence, this green signal here on the Oscillator 4 and the Algo 3. We have not seen that since, oh boy, I better bring up the logarithmic chart just so we can at least see it. But we haven't got those signals since all the way back here when Bitcoin was trading around $200 US. So, I mean, yes, it's absolutely possible that we get a fake out one just like here, and we do get one more leg to the downside before we get another signal there. But the point is that this signal is definitely worth considering as far as, you know, the market is definitely oversold. There's no way around that. Like, in my opinion, the worst of the bear market is over at the very least. I don't think there's too much more downside to go. But yeah, that's a signal I really don't want to take too lightly. They match up on the Oscillator 5 with the Algo 3, and they have been very nice. I mean, that's something that hasn't come up in quite a while. Another thing I want to bring up is, and I know I've pointed this out as well, these Stoch RSI divergences. I mean, I mentioned that these have been very strong signals, and I've actually been liking them more than the long and short signals. And just look at the size of some of these moves. Like, yes, absolutely, it's never going to be perfect. Here at the kind of the continuation of last bear market, they were kind of wrong there. But I mean, look at this move to the upside. Bitcoin went up almost 300%. Even this small one, Bitcoin rallied over 45%. Here, it was absolutely trying to warn us that the top of the market cycle could be in. Yes, we traded up very slightly from there, but that did a very nice job of calling the top where Bitcoin was cut in half. From there, we got the bullish signal on the Stoch RSI divergence. Bitcoin more than doubled. And even this very small one here, I mean, even this was about a 30% pump. So even a very small failed reaction, I'm going to call it, from that Stoch RSI divergence, still got a very healthy move to the upside from that. So that's something I don't want to take too lightly here also. I love seeing that signal flashing on the weekly here as well. Yeah, and as Kieran just mentioned in the chat, sitting out, taking trades, all that kind of thing, it mostly comes with time and experience. I mean, you have to feel the pain yourself to learn from it. You have to have those winning trades to kind of feel that. And just like, let's say, riding a bike, or I'm a skateboard, snowboard, wakeboarder kind of a guy. It's just kind of a muscle memory type of thing, if you want to call it that. It's just kind of almost a sixth sense that you get after trading and staring at way too many charts. I shouldn't say too many. I mean, I say that I stare at too many, but it's obviously a very nice skill to have. Very, very important life skill, in my opinion. Yeah. Anyways, guys. I am getting exhausted here, and I think I am going to wrap this up. Unless anyone has any other very quick questions or whatever. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I think most of you guys probably have at this point. For those of you, a lot of you guys are, obviously, you tune into a lot of my streams here. This is where I do much shorter videos. Like, these streams usually go between 1 and 2 hours. These videos on my own channel are usually like 5 to 15 minutes or something like that, so a lot quicker of market updates there. So be sure to subscribe there, and as well my Twitter. Like I said, I don't always have time to be posting videos, so sometimes I'll just post analysis on here instead. Oh, you did follow me on Twitter. Right on. Thanks, Thumpcase. Yeah, maybe in the general Bants post your page, or do you mean your Twitter? Oh, I did see you follow me the one day. Yeah, I'll definitely check you out on Twitter. I'll give you a follow too. Yeah, for sure. I'll do that right after this video while I'm uploading stuff. If I forget, remind me. Promise I'm not ignoring. Yeah, alright guys, well, with that being said, like I said, I am going to sign out for the night. I think I'm gonna go get some rest and maybe get myself, what do you call it, a hot toddy? Tamale? Whatever it was. I'm sure I got some whiskey around here. Hot toddy, yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. Right on, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in again. Hopefully it wasn't painful. I know I'm having a hard time concentrating and stuff, so hopefully it all went okay. And yeah, we'll obviously keep in touch on the group chat. I look forward to talking to you guys more. Until next time, my friends, stay safe. Peace.